Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays I do my Q&A video, and basically I answer your questions that you asked me last week, and I got a lot of questions, so I was quite happy to see lots of questions in the comments. So if you want to ask me a question for next week, please put a comment below and just ask me a question, and I'd be more than happy to answer. So today's questions I'm going to read, and we're going to start with Comic Book Ninja. Thanks for answering my previous question. New one. What are your thoughts on all the new movie and TV announcements from San Diego Comic-Con? Anything excite you? Disappointed with DC's lack of announcements or uncertain future of Superman and Henry Cavill? So, couple things that came out of San Diego Comic-Con that really excited me were actually the Shazam movie. I was really excited about that. So, and also the Black Adam movie. So those are both DC. So I thought those were kind of big things. We had previous Black Adam trailers, so maybe that wasn't as exciting, but definitely I was excited about Shazam. And I'm really looking forward to it. I was a little disappointed by the character villain choice, I guess, because they weren't characters from the actual Captain Marvel run or the later runs. So I don't know who these characters are. And it kind of disappointed me that they didn't bring back some classic characters. Other things that came out of San Diego Comic-Con that I thought were really interesting, I actually went over with Merc on Monday. So I actually recommend that you check out that video where we go through about 10 or so things that came out of San Diego Comic-Con. And, I think we did a pretty good job. But just some of the highlights would be, some of the show announcements from Marvel. I mean, Marvel basically announced the next 3 years of movies and TV series. So I thought that was kind of interesting, especially the fact that they announced that there's going to be 2 Avenger movies, and I think that was kind of great. Especially they kind of maybe put back some of the hype into Kang. I think that's kind of interesting, and they also put some hype into Secret Wars, which I was kind of excited about because I have the complete run of Secret Wars, so I'm quite happy. So so those were some of the things that I thought were interesting. I really don't know much about Henry Cavill. Actually, I think I almost met him at one of the Comic Cons way back when. He was, being Superman. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with him, tell you the truth. So yeah, sorry. That's all I can say about that. So the next question comes from Mars. Side note, do you have any early Madhouse or Sabrina the Teenage Witch to show off? Yes, I do. Actually, I have a really cool Madhouse coming in the mail. It still hasn't arrived yet. Madhouse 27. And that's the first cover appearance of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So it's kind of a cool book. I recommend, if you don't have Madhouse 27, you can get it usually for anywhere from $40 to $100. It's a fairly affordable book, considering it is her first cover appearance. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of my very small Sabrina the Teenage Witch collection. So I'm going to show you some of the ones that I got when I was a kid, actually. So these ones were actually ones that I owned since I was a kid. So Sabrina the Teenage Witch, number 61. Just nothing special about this book, but it is one that I owned since I was a kid. I got this for a cover, the cover price, which was 50 cents. I didn't even pay that because my parents probably bought it for me. Then I got Sabrina the Teenage Witch for number 62. And Sabrina the Teenage Witch number 67. So those are all the ones from my childhood. I didn't have a huge Sabrina run, but those were the ones I had as a child. But then, obviously I wanted to collect her, so I go for all the keys. That's the style I always go. I like to get the key books. So the big key for Sabrina is Madhouse 22. And this is kind of a cool book because it's a robot cover. And I know some people that like robot covers. And also it's kind of an obscure one. Not many people realize that this is the first appearance of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But this is Madhouse number 22. So I always think that one's kind of cool. And I like the fact that they say don't feed the humans kind of thing. And the other big one for Sabrina is Sabrina number 1. And this is actually a pretty pricey book. So this is Sabrina the Teenage Witch number 1. So I always like this. I like this one because it's a couch cover. And I always think about the other Archie couch covers. So I always think this one's kind of cool. I don't know. I really like this one. So those are my 2 big Sabrina books. But then I also have this one, which is kind of unusual. This is one that's a little bit under the radar. Not many people know about this book. I picked it up, I think it was like either $2 or $5. It was pretty cheap. But this is Little Archie, number 61. And this is the first appearance, if I zoom in, maybe you can see, of little Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So that I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I like these little Archies. So this is Little Archie 61. First appearance of the little Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So kind of cool. It's a low grade. It's not like super high grade or anything, but it was like $2, I think. It was like $2 or $5 in that range. Okay, so those are my Sabrinas. Next question comes from Comic Mag Musings, and he asked, okay, Big Al, here's another request / question for you. Can you please show off some of your Matt Baker covers? Which Baker cover is your favorite? Which is your favorite cover that isn't part of the Phantom Ladies series? Do you plan to collect any of his Western comic covers? Okay, so I'll answer that last question first. I'm actually not really chasing after any of his Western covers. Like if I see them, I'll pick them up maybe, but I don't really chase after his Western ones because unless it's good girl art, I kind of don't really go for it. I'm not a big fan of Westerns. I don't know why. So, but if it's good girl art, I'll go for it. But I am interested in finding, Cinderella Love. I'm trying to find those. Those are his kind of Grail books. And Seven Seas. I'm actively chasing those 2 Matt Baker runs, but not having any luck doing so. But I'll show you what's in my collection. I'll show you my favorite ones from Matt Baker. Starting out with my favorite Matt Baker cover. And this is a Phantom Lady. So yes, I'm going to show some Phantom Ladies. But this is Phantom Lady, I believe 14. I always forget the numbers on these because it doesn't say. It drives me crazy. But yeah, I think this is 14. Just a really great cover. Headlight cover. I like it a lot. And then we got Phantom Lady 16. This is a Soti book. And that's not Phantom Lady on the cover, but it's just another Matt Baker cover. And then those are the only 2 that I actually have that are from Phantom Lady. I would love to have more, but I don't. But I'm going to show you some of the cool books that I have. Really, that Phantom Lady number 14 is my favorite Matt Baker cover that I have in my collection. But I'm going to show you some other ones that I really like, and that I don't have a huge Matt Baker collection, but I have a few. So this is Alt Comics number 14. It's another Matt Baker. Hopefully I can show it in a good way. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, hopefully that came out well. Bit of glare there. And then this is a really great one. I love this cover, and this is just a really hard book to find. This is Crime Reporter number 2. It's also another one that was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent. So it's I just really like it. You know, she's just kind of has that like half molested look to her, and she's just kind of running away, you know, and it's a lingerie thing, lots of leg, and he's like shooting at her. looks like he's actually potentially hitting her in the hand. It's like, I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's kind of crazy. And then we got Zoot number 14. This is another great Matt Baker cover. Always kind of like that kind of Betty Page kind of 40s style hair. So I think this one's kind of cool. You got the birds like picking up the girl and everything. I think it's really interesting cover. And this is a one that I recently picked up, and it's not one that many people really know is a Matt Baker, but this is Atomic Comics number 4. And actually, I think people must have found out afterwards, after I found out that it was a Matt Baker. I just liked the cover. So I thought it was a really cool cover. It's like this kind of machine-like thing. And you got this kind of sexy girl on the cover there. But this is a Matt Baker cover that just like from the time that I bought it till now, it's doubled in price. So, which has only been a few months, which is kind of weird. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So this is Atomic Comics number 4. And the run is only 4 issues, actually. I'm actually trying to get the whole set just to have the whole set since it's only 4 issues. But yeah, so those are my Matt Bakers. I don't have a huge Matt Baker collection, sadly. But I do, I do have a few. And that's pretty much it. So the Phantom Lady one is probably my favorite, but I thought some of the other ones like the Zoots and the Rulas and stuff are pretty cool too. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Next one is from Daniel Sanchez. If you were starting to collecting comics, which comics would you start with? Okay, so when I got back into collecting comics, so I really never stopped collecting comics, but what happened was I didn't buy as much. So during the 90s, I bought a lot. During the 2000s, early 2000s to maybe 2015, 2016, that kind of era, I really didn't buy that many comics. I would buy a few, like, key books, a couple of key books that I was searching for, but I didn't really buy that many. And then when I got back into collecting comics, I really had strong goals because I had, freed up some finances. I was able to kind of put some money towards the hobby. So I'm going to give you the advice that I sort of followed from my own collecting experience. And what happened was I really wanted to go for the grails. I wanted to go for the books that I always wanted to have in my collection. So the first thing I focused on was Silver Age. And I really wanted to get Silver Age and actually kind of some of the grails from the 90s as well. So I'll explain that. But first, Silver Age. So what I was thinking was, what are the kind of current movies that I really like? So X-Men, like Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, all those kind of characters. And then I would look up from all the movies that I really enjoyed. Infinity War and all these kind of things, like all the kind of, all the big movies that I enjoyed, Spider-Man, all these kind of things. And I kind of made a list. I made a shopping list, basically, of all the grails that I wanted to get. So AF-15, I didn't even care that it was unrealistic goals at the time. I put Batman 1 on it. I put Action Comics 1 is on my want list. Whether I'll get it or not is another thing. But I put all my grails on the list and that I really wanted to get. So Showcase 4, Wonder Woman All-Star 8, all these big books that I wanted to get. So some of those are Golden Age. But the first thing I focused on was some Silver Age grails. And that would be like Tales of Suspense 39 or Journey into Mystery 83, those kind of big books. Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Fantastic Four #1, those kind of big books that I really wanted to get in my collection. And then what I would do is hunt them down. And, generally I would get sticker shocked because they were expensive books. But I always try to find a way to get those books. So if it was like a book that was like, let's say, more than $5,000, and it's on my want list, and it's a book that I really do want to have in my collection, what I would do is work out a deal with that vendor to do like payments, like payment plan. And usually I'd pay it off in like 5, 6 months, so a little bit each month, and I could handle that. Um, and so that was kind of my approach to getting a lot of these big books. And but what I recommend is kind of that approach. Right now, we're kind of in a dip in terms of the market, and it's a good time to go after those big grails because there's been a lot of pullback in prices, especially for those big books. And it's one of those things where those big books will go down a little bit, but they'll come back up. We know it. They're not books that people are going to forget about, and they're books that people will always buy. So yeah, so that's generally the way I approached it. I'd make this want list and then see what was available on my want list and gradually pick off the items off my want list. If you're on a tighter budget, I recommend if you're just getting back into collecting comics, just go to your local comic book shop, buy the current stuff, ask ask them what's the hot titles, if and find out what you like reading. That's a big thing. I always recommend buy what you love. So I love movies, I love TV series, and I'll buy based on that a lot of the time. And then I'll read the books and see how the stories compare. But I usually watch the movie first, and then come into it. So I'm the speculator's dream, because most speculators are trying to make money where the movie comes out and they know that the books are going to go crazy, and I'm the kind of guy that would buy the books at that crazy price. Though I try to be a bit better nowadays. So that's my style, but you got to find your own style. What do you like in terms of what do you read? And generally, if you buy what you like, it's not like, so people always say that, and it's so cliched, that, it doesn't really mean much, but actually it does mean something, because, what happens is if you buy what you like, generally other people will like that same thing. So I've seen people buy like the latest hot book, like some random stupid book, and nobody actually likes the book. Nobody's actually read the book. And the book goes up crazy price. And then because nobody actually is reading it, once the speculation's over, it drops back down. Well, if it's a book that's actually really good and people really enjoy, a good example is Something is Killing the Children. That was a story that people loved. And the book, even when the hype around it kind of faded, it still maintained its value because there was still that following for the books, and people like it. I think one that's really hot right now is 8 Billion Genies. And I actually, strangely enough, picked up the books right off the shelf, before they had gone up. And that book I actually read. So I actually recommend it because it's a good book. Last week it was on my Goodreads book. So there are books that are coming out that are still really good. And sometimes I wonder if the modern books are going to be any good, but there are some good modern books, and that's example of them. So depending on your budget, if you want to go the extreme way that I did with these big books, look at the movies that you love and the characters, and then go after those characters. If you just want to dabble in comics and get that experience, go to your local comic book shop, see what's the new titles, and pick up a few and just read them and see what you think. And if you enjoy them, pick up the earlier issues. Easy method buying comics. Okay, so that was me rambling about that answer, but hopefully that was useful. Next one is from Jacob Bornowski. Um, this is actually a really great question, so I'm sorry if I brutalized his name. So top 5 Dave Stephen covers, top 5 Adam Hughes covers in separate boxes. You only have room for one on the U-Haul truck. Which one are you taking? And I'm not sure what he means by that in a way. Does he mean that I only have I have 2 separate boxes? One is 5 Adam Hughes and one is Dave Stevens. And which would I pick of the 2 boxes? Well, I'd pick the Dave Stevens box if that was the question. But I figured, hey, I'm going to approach this question in a whole different way. Probably not answer it properly, but I'll do my best to give a cool answer. I'm going to actually show you some of my favorite Adam Hughes, my top 5, and my top 5 Dave Stevens as well. So I'm going to start with Adam Hughes. And there's actually 5 books that I always have on display in my comic room. So these are the 5 favorite Adam Hughes covers. So you're going to get to see my 5 favorite Adam Hughes covers. So this one is Deathstroke Inc. #1, the Adam Hughes variant cover. And maybe I take it out of the plastic so you can see it a bit better. It's just a really sexy fishnet stockings cover with Black Canary. That was always great. And then we got Catwoman 51. I always loved this cover. So this is probably one of my favorite Adam Hughes. I would say easily top 2. Then some more Phantom Lady. So I was showing Phantom Lady earlier, and this one really doesn't show in its bag. It's a really ugly bag. I should switch out the bag. So I'm gonna show it a bit better. Such a great Phantom Lady cover. And this is an homage to Phantom Lady 17. It's just a really great cover. Really like it. It's really wonderful. And another Phantom, Zatanna cover. Just really Zatanna. Just a really great cover. I really like this one. Like Lucky 13. And the last one is Wonder Woman 184. This one and the Catwoman are my 2 favorite, actually. I really like this one. So yeah, so those are my 5 Adam Hughes, and I always have those on display. So in a way, I consider those my favorite. But then I'm going to show you my Dave Stevens, and I'm going to show you a bit more Dave Stevens than I did Adam Hughes, and that's maybe why I would have grabbed the Dave Stevens box instead of the Adam Hughes box, because I'm actually like a really active collector for Dave Stevens, and I'm going to show you a bunch of books, and I'm going to show you so whenever I think of Dave Stevens, I always think of the Rocketeer. So this is the Rocketeer cover. This is Amazing Heroes 145. It's kind of a nice Dave Stevens cover. And I want to grab a couple others. So we got Airboy #5. It's a really great Valkyrie cover. It's like an homage to the original Air Fighters cover, which is really great. And then we got, this one's a little bit adult, but not too bad. This is Cheval Noir #1. Just a really great, sexy cover. So, and then I got a bunch. Some of these I just couldn't replace. So I'm going to show you what my top 5 would be, but I'm going to show you a bunch others as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you these ones first. So this is just like a variant cover where they use Dave Stevens art. think this is after he died, actually. So, but just a nice cover. And then there's another one that he did. It's another one of these variant covers with Dave Stevens art. So I always like that one. And then I'll show you my top 5. Or actually, more than that. Jeez. Oh, okay, I should show this one first. Sorry. Gotta find... Okay, so this is another great one. Space Vixens. The great Dave Stevens art cover. And then... This is 5. I'm going to try to get it down to 5. I like them too much. Okay, so yeah, I'll show this one. This is a really great one. Betty Page cover. So this is Movie Star News. Just really great Betty Page cover. Dave Stevens. And then we got my final 5. So these would be the top 5 for me. And I'm going to show you, like, the reason I'd grab these, if I had to, like, a burning building, I only had a chance to grab 5 books from Dave Stevens, these would be the 5 that I'd grab, and I'll explain why. So first one is Creature, #1. Really rare book. This is the first time we get Dave Stevens art on a cover. And his first kind of published artwork. So, so yeah. Just a really rare book. Just kind of cool to have his first cover. And then we got Black Angel. This is I just really like this cover. I just think it's very sexy and, you know, kind of an interesting cover. Nazi kind of war cover. So that's Black Angel. And this one is just a really... I like this one because it's another one of these ones that's a variant cover. But it's a cover that Dave Stevens is kind of like, he's the photographer there. That's him. Okay. And, you know, it's kind of just a very sexy Betty Page cover. And then we got my top 2 would be Planet Comics #1. And this one, I actually recently got the homage that this is, the book that this is homaging, which is Planet Comics #58. Just a really great, sexy, you know, he does really great good girl art. So I really like that one. And possibly my favorite Dave Stevens is DNA Agents #1. #1, what am I saying? 24. Yeah, this is just a kind of Dave Stevens at his best. You know, I just really like this one. Just a really sexy cover. Okay, so those are my top 5 Dave Stevens covers and Adam Hughes ones. So I hope that was interesting. Okay. Next question is from James P. Ever notice Schomburg can't really draw feet well? And I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure if I agree with that Schomburg can't draw feet really well. So one of the things that most artists struggle with are hands and feet. Usually feet come across as kind of weird, wonky looking. I'm going to show you some Alex Schomburg feet. I don't know. Not that I collect feet in particular, but these ones show feet quite well. This is Exciting Comics, #66. And there's the foot. I think it looks quite good. I think it's very stylized, and it looks quite nice. I don't know. I think she has nice feet. So, I don't know. I kind of thought her feet are good. So, and then I'll show you another one. He draws the feet being very small, if that means anything. This is... gotta take everything out of the plastic here. This is... you can see her foot kicking the guy in the face. And I think it's a nice looking foot kicking the guy in the face. So I would say I don't agree. I don't agree. I think he does a good job. I've seen other artists draw feet and their feet are kind of wonky looking. His feet kind of look elegant, almost like Cinderella-like, you know, the kind of pretty feet. So, yeah, that'd be my opinion on that one. Okay, so where did I put the questions? Okay, so those are all the ones so far. Next one is from Ronald Burgess. Um, who's your favorite Marvel superhero team? Okay, so there's lots of Marvel superhero teams. I'm very partial to Guardians of the Galaxy just because I really enjoyed that movie. But if you were going to go buy the comics that I really, really love and I would read like the entire run, like series of, it would be Fantastic Four. So I would say Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel team. I just the only reason I said, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy is Guardians of the Galaxy have good movies. Whenever they do Fantastic Four, the movies are kind of so-so, very so-so. I don't know why. There's almost like a curse to Fantastic Four. They just can't make a good Fantastic Four movie, and I'm waiting for it. I'm hoping for it. Hopefully, this Fantastic Four movie that they announced will be great, and we'll finally get a great Fantastic Four movie. But they are my favorite team from Marvel. I just think I like the whole feeling of the Fantastic Four. It's kind of like this dysfunctional family, and that's kind of maybe what I like about them. You got there's sort of like that tension and conflict. If you read the comics, they're always kind of bickering. It just reminds me of a dysfunctional family. I think they always refer to them as Marvel's first family, and I think that's a very accurate description. Okay, now the last question, and this is from Mike Swintel. I think we are headed towards another SOTI time period where censorship will come back to comic books. Do you think this will happen again? So, um, I comment about SOTI a lot, which is the seduction out of the innocent, where basically books were seen as something that was corrupting the minds of youth. Okay. And there were some pretty crazy comics that came out of the golden age. And maybe, people thought they were a little bit over the top. And that led to, Frederick Wortham writing the book Seduction of the Innocent, and eventually, within a couple of months of that book being released, there was public outcry to basically get books banned, to get comics just eliminated altogether. And it led to the Comic Code Authority, and the rest is history, the end of the golden age. So, are we headed towards something similar? I mean, we got pretty crazy books. I mean, I must admit, like if you read Red Room, that's a good example of pretty crazy stuff. I'm partial to some of the Avatar Press stuff, which it has like pretty full on stuff going on. Some pretty crazy covers. If you look at Jungle Fantasy, look at that title, you'll see what I mean. There's some pretty outrageous stuff. However, what's the difference? Why do I think that we're not actually headed to another of these kind of censorship, like another Comic Code Authority situation? A couple of reasons. The reason the Comic Code Authority worked so well was back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s, the way you got your books out there, you had to use a distributor. You had to go and put your comics into the the newsstands, and that was the way you got your books out. And if you couldn't get your books onto the newsstands, you were basically done in business. So the Comic Code basically said you couldn't go onto the newsstands unless you had the code. Okay. Nowadays, there's multiple distributors. There's so many of these smaller shops that you can put your comics into that it's really hard to make that kind of crackdown where, there's a bit more freedom in terms of getting your books out. However, there's another reason why I don't think we are going to head towards this censorship in the general sense. In terms of adult rated stuff, I actually think that nowadays is a little bit more liberated in terms of that. Um, so like a lot of the stuff that comes out in comics is kind of affected by the whole woke culture, and I really hate talking about woke culture too much because every time I talk about woke culture, I get in trouble and people are like, oh, they always complain. There's always these people that never watch my channel ever, but I mention the word woke and then they come to my channel, they complain, they get me shadow banned, they get me in trouble with YouTube. And it's really annoying. So there is that cancel culture part of this woke ideology. And I always a little bit nervous talking about it. But what I want to say is that part of the woke culture is ultra feminism. And what's really odd about ultra feminism is it promotes promiscuity. It promotes women acting like men, which is so like anti-female, right? But it does promote this idea that women and men are the same, and women should sleep around just as much as men sleep around, and it's a really kind of negative culture if you think about it. But that is promoted within this woke culture, and what that does is when you make comics with this kind of ideology, you promote a lot of sexuality. So that I don't see as being the problem, that there's going to be like a censorship for the same reasons that were censored in the golden age. So hypersexuality, hyperviolence. Strangely, I don't think those are the reasons that will cause any type of censorship. However, I do believe that there is censorship going on. And the type of censorship is more political in base. So if you want to write a comic praising Donald Trump, and saying, oh, Donald Trump's the greatest guy ever, blah, 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 you would probably get a lot of backlash. Publishers wouldn't want to publish it. The wrong political belief will get you into trouble. So there's a very strong, like within this woke ideology, they really do have same think, where they basically force everybody to think the same way, to, to say the same things. They have to follow, they have to believe in all the progressive points. If you made a book and all the characters were white, okay, and there was no gay people in the book, and there would be a backlash against it, and there would be like sort of social media censorship, and there would be a backlash against that. Now you could do the same, you could have a completely gay book, or completely black or completely Asian book, but don't do that with white. It'd just be, people would freak out at you. So there is kind of this ideology that is kind of promoting a certain view that you have to believe in, or they will actively seek to cancel you. And that's really where we're heading. I don't see it as like the Comic Code Authority, like an official thing that is censoring books. I see it more as a social canceling, and like sort of a political sort of movement that works against certain writers, certain ideas that they do not want to hear. You can't say certain things, and you'll get into big trouble. So that's more where I see things happening. And I do see that already happening within many comics. They really do promote certain ideas, and you can't go against those ideas. And a good example of that, and I actually supported this comic, was Ripaverse. And basically he's a black conservative. So kind of like kryptonite to the whole progressives. He believes in characters shouldn't be gender swapped or race swapped. He likes traditional characters. So he's a conservative, not just in terms of his political stance, but in terms of comics. And he decided, hey, he can keep on complaining about comics and how there's so much woke ideology in comics, or he can make his own comic. and really just be a voice against the progressive narrative. And so he funded the whole project himself. Um, and I think he's raised over $3 million because he had a campaign that he was running, and he was doing it through PayPal. I think PayPal is actually giving him, because PayPal is a bit woke. They're actually giving him backlash because he's not following the woke ideology. He's not being a good little woke person, and his comic is not anti woke. It's just not woke. It's just being a comic based on telling good story, just having fun, women being women, men being men, no ideologies pushed in it, no agenda pushed in it. And that, having that kind of a conservative framework within a comic nowadays is considered toxic. It's like just making a good story nowadays is considered toxic. And they're really trying to cancel the guy. They're really trying to destroy this guy, and it's just so interesting. That he's a successful Black comic book creator, and which is, if you think about it, should be like check mark, check mark, check mark for these woke ideologists, but because he's not producing what the comics, with the ideology that they want, the agenda that they want, they're trying to cancel him. So I think, that's really where this woke ideology is. It's so messed up, but I actually recommend you support this guy. So, because we need people that are speaking out and making stuff that is good again. And I really think that's important. So I hope that answer you enjoyed. Probably going to get into trouble like I always do. But thanks for watching, everybody. And please leave a comment below with your question, and I will do my best to answer it. Also, please subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers, and once I hit 2,000 subscribers, I'm doing a big giveaway. So I'll also link that in my description, where you can enter in and win one of 3 big comics. So hopefully somebody's going to help me get to that point. So by subscribing to the channel now, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.